Okay. All right, you got it, Lovely.
I was going to let you lead since we're on your YouTube. I feel like you should do the honors.
All right. Well, peace to everybody. You are now tuned in to the Venus and Mars show with Lovelee Soul Empress and me, Jamal Robinson with 720astrology.com. Like to welcome y'all back. We decided to host it through my YouTube today because I'm feeling like a little kid because I hit my 1,000. So I appreciate everybody for subscribing, getting me up there. So now we can I can try out lives over here. Peace to the TikTok audience. And yeah, so what's going on with you, Lovely?
Well, Grand Rising, Grand Rising, thank you for having me on your page this time. And in addition to that, congratulations to hitting your 1,000. I
Thank you.
also want to say hi to my TikTok people because we over here too. Thank you all for joining us. I sent out a quick note to my YouTube people and told them we was headed on a field trip over to your page and to come join us over here. So this should be quite the show. I'm very much looking forward to it.
All right. So do you want to give people a little bit to get in, or you want to go ahead and just get this thing rolling?
Well, I'm gonna let you lead. I feel like this is hey guys, I'm just seeing the comments coming in. I'm gonna let you lead. I feel like give them your short synopsis and we'll go from there.
Okay. Why has YouTube rejected your comment? It won't allow me. You ever had that happen?
No,
Yeah, it's not letting me.
let me try to join the chat too and see what's happening.
YouTube rejected your comment. This usually means they think it's spam and it's changing it. Try
And
changing it a bit. What?
that's weird. And when I tried to chat, it threw me out.
Okay, I can say peace, everybody.
Okay,
I
so what,
said
I
that.
gotta connect mine. Hold on. Did you lose me for a second?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So are you not able to comment?
I'm gonna try in a comment now too, so we can get this all together. Hey gang. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, all right. We can
Okay,
take it
yeah,
from
there you
there.
go.
Everything's set up.
All
All
right, we
right.
cooking with grease
Sorry,
now.
my loves. Yeah, we still working it all out.
All right. All right. So let me get my. So once again, this is the Venus and Mars show. Welcome to all the new watchers and subscribers and followers. Lovely and I have been hosting this show. I don't know what number is this.
I think we're on like 5 or 6,
Yeah.
episode 5 or 6. We do it a bi-weekly.
So we're overcoming the odds because most podcasts usually fizzle by now, according to statistics. So we are being consistent and staying true to the game. And once again, we welcome y'all in. So we like to try to keep up with what's going on in the world astrologically and otherwise, and try to give a metaphysical, spiritual backdrop from the perspective of the multi disciplines that we are engaged in. Um, I tend to lean more from the astrology. Lovely is proficient in both astrology and tarot and more. I have other proficiencies, and we just kind of mix it all together and make a gumbo. So we wanted to speak on today the Jupiter in Gemini transit. And the subtitle is putting on the God mind. And what does that mean? So I want to just kick it off with saying this. Astrology, from an astrological standpoint, you learn astrology by, of course, we get books. You read books and see what other astrologers are saying about what this means. And if you got Mercury here and the moon here, that's one way. That's the basics, right? You also learn astrology by practical application. Like you see how it plays out in people's lives. I've said this before. I got 4 children. Beautiful university for learning astrology. I got a wife. I got a mama. I got charts for all of them. I got all my brothers. I got charts for them. Cousins, nephews, nieces. And that's a great way to see astrology play out in real time. Another way I want to, and this is leading to our conversation, these names that these planets have tie back to mythology. Okay. So to really learn these energies, you want to study how they show up in mythology. And there's all types of crazy shit going on in mythology. They fighting, cheating on each other, infidelity, stealing from each other, killing each other. Everything that go on in the streets goes on in mythology. And I want to open it up with this, because we're looking at Jupiter, but we're still looking at Mercury, because he's in Mercury's house. And here's one resource I just want to offer. This is Greek Myths by Robert Graves, because this is not considered an astrological book, but it's going to give you a breakdown of the mythological characters in Greek mythology, which they show up in astrology. And when you go to the back of the book, you look up each person's name, and he'll have sometimes a little quick blurb about what the name means. And that's giving you clues into delineating that particular planet in the chart. And with that said, and I'm going to yield after this, Jupiter is in Mercury's house. In Greek mythology, Mercury is Hermes or Hermes. And he has the ability to move through any realm. Know this about Mercury. He can move through the earth plane. He can even move through water. He don't really like it, but he can move through that. He has been given carte blanche to all realms. And Mercury represents our mind. And our mind has access to all realms that we apply it to. And I yield on that. That's my opening volley.
So, Grand Rising, everybody. Greetings, especially to those people that have not seen me before, because I am on Jamal's page. I just want to quickly say I'm a Reiki master. I consider myself to be a master tarot reader over 40 years. I'm a manifestation coach. I'm also a Palamayumbe priestess. So I wear a lot of hats, and I am very interested in astrology, but I usually lead with the energy that my spirit team tells me, and then I go and look at astrologies to confirm why that is. So I just want to put that out there. We might have different approaches, but oftentimes we get to the same place. My take on the Jupiter in Gemini, first off, is that on a normal basis, Jupiter is getting messages from the ethers or higher knowledge, and maybe not necessarily knowing why you're getting that message or where it necessarily came from, and the desire to expand on those downloads or insights that are coming to you. Now, with it being in Gemini, there's a detriment there, because that's Sagittarius's opposite sign. But I feel like being that it just came out of Taurus and we spent a lot of time focusing on expansion of what we valued or what we were trying to build, right? That now that it's gone into the house of communication, that we might find ourselves trying to communicate what we've learned or what we're trying to grow to others. And like you said, with Mercury being in Taurus right now and Jupiter being in Gemini, it's kind of like there's a connection there about the progression of what we're supposed to do with the information that we got in the ethers in that last 12 months that it was in Taurus. And then expanding, the only other thing I'll say about that is expanding about the Hermes concept. You know, for me, Mercury, when we look at the ATRs, I would associate heavily with Alegba or Elegua, depending on, you know, your ATR system and, you know, the crossroads and having, you know, the access to all the realms. So that's what I would add to that.
True indeed. Mercury is in Taurus, and he will soon be moving into his domicile, which is going to be off the chain because you're going to have Mercury, the sun, the moon, Jupiter, and Venus, 5-planet stellium coming up. I'll be doing a video on that on my YouTube soon about that. But with I always, okay, when I do readings, I like to get some of the negatives out the way.
Right.
What are some of the potential negatives of Jupiter in Gemini? And let's start with, it's not real acute because Jupiter is still the energy of, it's the greater benefic in astrology. Okay. Mm-hmm. Venus is the so-called lesser benefic. So these are the two that typically that we think of and not as harsh a light, although they can cause issue. So Jupiter in Gemini is traditionally in detriment. So here's what we might have to guard against. Jupiter has been in very thick, slow energy, Taurus. Okay. And now he's in air. So it's like moving. And Jupiter expands. So one of the potential things we would have to guard against is being overwhelmed by our thoughts. Like there's so much information coming in, so many downloads coming in that we may be so bombarded that we don't actually get anything done. And that might be one of the things to guard against. And Lovelee and I talked about this the other day, that Saturn is going to square the sun and Venus sometime
today. Actually, we
today?
have it. It started today, and you know,
okay,
the transit kicks all the way off. We're gonna see this, and so today's kind of like a preview. You could say that.
So let's see. So today is the 2nd, and let's see.
I
Venus.
think today we have it for a short period, and then soon, when the retrograde comes in, it'll hold for longer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're moving in range. Saturn is at 18, but we really start to feel it next week because or the end of this week. So around Friday, Saturday, there'll be partile. We're gonna really start to feel the limitation of Saturn. And so, but sometimes limitation is a good thing, because
Right.
with Jupiter in Gemini and our mind just like on steroids, and I'm telling you, I feel this shit. Like I'm like, man, like, and I can get frustrated because I need time to get all this shit in order, all the downloads. But Saturn comes and puts a wall up, and that wall sometimes makes us focus that energy, you know, which can be a very good thing. But I just wanted to start off, get that out the way. That's the one negative potential negative I see with Jupiter in Gemini.
So another potential negative, I think, is that the communication, like you said, will be going fast. There could be a tendency to not think it all the way through. This also, just because you got a particular download or a message doesn't mean that the next person is going to have the same perspective. Okay. And so, we could get a little frustrated from not being able to convince others of our views. So that could be a problem. Okay. Also, when you speak about the Saturn dynamic, I feel like it's going to be super important once that Saturn retrograde kicks off to make sure you know what you're talking about and that you're not communicating without doing your research, right? Because Saturn is the hidden things, right? And Jupiter is moving so quickly, right? And then it's going to be like almost piggybacking, right? Because Mercury is electric. When you think about the current, right? So if you don't take the time to make sure that the download that you got, it's not that it would be wrong, but that it may need attention or for you to expand on that. What does Jupiter want to do? It wants to expand, right? Mercury wants to communicate. So you may have an initial thought and need to go deeper, right? Saturn retrograde, before you communicate said concept.
I agree. So what can happen, some other things kind of now tied into the title of this show today, of our theme, putting on the God mind. Jupiter comes down from the ninth house, and it's in the natural zodiac, its rulership of Sagittarius. And we just deal with simple keywords: Sagittarius, the higher truth, higher learning, the philosophy, the big picture, the adventure. And so we have the ruler bringing down energy from there to Gemini, which gives us the natural student. And as I highlighted in the video I did on Jupiter and Gemini, the teacher becoming the student. And this ties into what Lovelee said about your perspective or your opinion. It's an opportunity to look and get new data and to tweak maybe your perspective, your opinion, because Jupiter is very opinionated, in Sagittarius, and it's an opportunity to put on the mantle of the student, because all great teachers are great students. There's no 72 ways around it. To be a great teacher, you got to be a great student. And I think that's one of I got a few things, but I'll yield there and see what you think about that, just that opportunity.
So I feel like the deeper we get into this Jupiter transit, there's going to be a lot of that. And the reason why I say that is because we have the Saturn retrograde that starts on the 29th of this month. Then you're going to have the Neptune retrograde, which starts like 3 days later. It's July 2nd, right? So that's going to make it even foggier. Okay. Then you also have the, what was another one? And Uranus. Okay. That's going to be in September. There's also the Mercury retrograde that happens in August. They're all going to be happening at the same time. Okay. So when Mercury goes retrograde, it's an opportunity to look at your internal dialogue. This is how I describe it to my followers, right? Because sometimes when you try to do it with other people, that's when you get into, miscommunication. But if you're going over your internal dialogue or your individual projects that you already has started. There's a lot to be learned there. And with Jupiter being in Gemini, I feel like that will aid in that, even though it's in a house that it's not necessarily comfortable with. Okay, so some of the transits are going to aid, but others are going to make it quite an extended period of maybe doubt. Am I headed in the right direction? Is the communication that I'm trying to promote, because I feel like there is this thing of Jupiter in Gemini that's trying to get something across, a grander vision. Am I on the right track? So there could be a couple months of doubt because there's so many retrogrades that are going to be happening at the same time, and they're all like in the summer.
And in the midst of that, this is the great paradox that all systems, that life itself presents at all times. In the midst, this is the challenge with the retrograde activity, the square coming from Saturn. In the midst of considering, and the Jupiter being in its detriment in Gemini, in the midst of being open to looking at different perspectives, as my daughters say, you also got to stand on motherfucking business. And whatever truth that you know is the truth, stand on it like King Kong. And so, in other words, it's going to be a chance to shed things that may not have really been the ultimate, because Sagittarius is about the truth. But if you know a Sagittarian, one of my children is one, that truth can change tomorrow. But in the moment that they're in that truth, it is the absolute truth. So there's always just a bit, and it's a mutable sign. So it's always, the truth is always changing with Sagittarius. So it's, what is the momentary truth? That's kind of what I think we with what Lovelee said about these squares and the retrograde action. What's the momentary truth? Differentiating that from what is the solid granite truth. We're digging through. But yeah, I just wanted that made me think of that when you said that.
Right. And when you say like the solid truth and the momentary truth, it makes me think about forever is for as long as you are in that vibration. You know what I'm saying? And then that changes. So people, like, they come into unions and they say forever, but they don't realize that, in one lifetime you have many versions of yourself, right? So in this period, it's like, that's why I was saying there's going to be a need to research what's coming in and really delve, even when these are like internal messages, right? That you have to go within and really examine why. Because with the Gemini wanting to communicate it so quickly, right? We may not necessarily be taking out the time to feel it. I mean, you're talking about an air and a fire sign, right? And not so much water. Okay. But I feel like the Saturn and the Neptune retrogrades are going to help with that, because maybe in the errors that we make in the miscommunications or in the moving too fast are going to give us opportunities to uncover that which we have been hiding from ourselves. So I feel like this is going to be a learning curve, guys.
Can we go back to the point you made about Jupiter was in Taurus, though? Because I think we need to, because I want to dig in on that, because Taurus is slow. It's fixed energy. And I think a lot of what Jupiter is bringing into Gemini is buttressed against or depending on what was going on while it was in Taurus. You know, like that, like when you look at the transits, Jupiter moves slower even when it's in like the planet. Like it
Right.
zips through Gemini, literally. You know, planets
Right.
have different speeds. And I just want to say this as a sidebar. When we look at retrograde, that's what we're looking at. The speed of the planet. And what happens in a retrograde, the planet is actually closer to the Earth. And
Okay.
it's like all of a sudden I'm real loud. So all those planets that are when they're retrograde, their signal gets really loud. So whatever their natural archetypal expression, it becomes greater, more intense. So Saturn, all the stuff we know about Saturn intensifies with the retrograde. Neptune, like Lovely said, the fuzziness, the haziness, the creativity can be off the chain, you know, but the actual like the differentiating one from the other can be fuzzy. And so what did we do while Jupiter was in that Taurus energy? What were we building? And what did Venus bring forward out of Taurus as the ruler? And she held hands with Jupiter for a little bit. They were conjoined. What did she bring forth in the Gemini? And I think that's part of the what you're going to stand on during this transit, depending on how you worked with it in its previous position.
So I think with that, you know, I'm like got so much Taurus energy. So I feel like that's like my specialty whenever we're talking about the house of Taurus, right? And Jupiter in Taurus, it's like, and then you can't even really separate it from the Uranus transit that's happening simultaneously, right? So what's happening in that house? There's an energy of changing the fundamentals of what you want to build, right? Or birthing something new that could have been, a message that came from the ethers, piggybacking off the Uranus that also is talking about, change through chaos. So it could have came in very chaotic, right? And it spent a little bit over a year there. So we were really focusing on, I don't know where I'm getting this message from, but I love the concept and I'm going to birth it, right? Because Venus was there too, right? So, and I'm going to birth it, right? So now that we've done it and we've birthed this thing, just like we birthed the Venus and Mars show in that time, right? Now we're in this transit where we're showing the world why we value that and why they should value that too, what they can get from that experience, right? So if you're using it appropriately, that's what it looks like. Okay, but if you haven't done the work, it could kind of derail you because you might be, speaking out of both sides of your face, not really knowing how much work it would take to maybe launch something and come up short. So that's the one caveat that I would add to that. If you hadn't put the work in, because Taurus is all about labor pains, you might find that you came up short.
Real spill. And you get enough numbers up under your belt as far as years around the sun, you can go back and reflect on how you handled these Jupiter transits. Jupiter moves in 12-year cycles. So go back to 2012, 2013, and look at what was going on. And that can give you an indication of why life is how it is right now and how to move correctly in this moment. How did you handle the transition from 2011 to 2020. Now I'm gonna tell you, for me, it was tumultuous. It was a tower moment from Jupiter in Taurus, which I have Jupiter in Taurus in my natal chart. So so I just had my Jupiter return. But and I look back over that. This when I think I always think of that 12 years, I feel like that movie 12 Years a Slave, you know, because it was just some ill shit, you know. And so I feel like I'm getting my papers, you know. And so that's one thing. Look back over your life over these past 12 years, and if you're old enough, look back over these cycles going all the way back. And that is data for you to determine how you're going to move in this transit. Just want to add that.
And I would add, because S. Frank says in the comments, the 12th house of undoing, and Saturn is, is that, and that's where Saturn is right now. I should say that Pisces is that, and Saturn is going to assist in dragging that out of us, right? But this is what I've learned in my years, as to what you were saying about look at the years. When I look at 2012, right, I was trying to put the blinders on, like a horse has blinders so that they could win the race. They put the blinders on them so they only look forward, right? And that's what I was doing, right? And now, as I have grown, not only in my spirituality, but in my understanding of astrology, right, that when I see these transits happen, I look at them as opportunities to lean into the energy. So when Saturn goes retrograde, I'm actually going to be leaning into what I can uncover. Right? So now it's not whooping my ass.
There we go.
You see? So this is what I do with all the transits. So I don't necessarily, not that I disagree, because it's not that I disagree, but I try to use that as an opportunity. So if it's undoing, what can I undo that would be positive for me?
Yeah, that's all. That's the whole point of looking back. It's education. So however it plays out for each person, it is. Gemini is an energy of learning, and ultimately, what can you learn, and what have you learned throughout your life journey? Keyword that comes up, because I'm gonna do a video on this, and we're gonna go in depth in this. But the word thesis really comes to mind for me with Jupiter in Gemini. Because Jupiter in Sagittarius is a perspective, and it's higher learning. So when you go for whatever, you got to write your dissertation, you got to have some type of thesis and get it approved to do your before you really go into the research. But you have some idea that you're going to work to prove. And Jupiter coming down into Gemini is you're bringing a thesis. And I identify with this wholeheartedly because I have this Sun Saturn relationship between my third and ninth house. The way I learn is from a thesis. I always got some idea of what's my end game when I have to go and figure out, was that right? Okay. And so that energy is permeating right now. It is, what's your thesis? And is it true or is it untrue? Now check this out. Thesis, that's why, you go language, they play with language. They take dictionaries and change the meaning of words every so years. Some ill shit. So if you can get you an Oxford, older the better, unabridged dictionary, you can really figure out what certain things mean. I want to read this about thesis, what they got. Originally and properly, according to ancient writers, the setting down of the foot or lowering of the hand in beating time and hence the stress or ictus, the stress syllable of a foot in a verse, a stressed note in music. So all this language, you know, all this saying rhythm. That's all this rhythm. And this is why hip hop is so ingenious. We didn't even know what we doing when we make this music. Like your MC, you not only have to have a vocabulary, Gemini, you got to also have a cadence. When you spit a verse, every rapper's known for their cadence. And so, and thesis, which governs over rhythm and how long we stay. Do you know what is that? That's Venus. Because rhythm is relationship. And I tell everybody, everything I do, everything always tie together. The stuff we've done, our last show, we did it on Hathor. Hathor
Yes.
speaks. Hathor is the goddess, or Lovelee also says the empress. And she is the template, or she is the same as Venus. So,
Yes.
and so there's a goddess that has been hidden, and she's actually the energy behind Jupiter, who we talking about. And that goddess is named Themis or Themis. She's the goddess of law and justice. What do we know Jupiter for? Law and justice. So it's go ahead.
No, I don't want to step on you.
No, go ahead.
Because you say as soon as you mention Hathor and the creatrix, the empress, I just be like a light bulb. But I was gonna say, I feel like Hathor is the symbolism of all the feminine deities. Okay. And one of the things, like the mother of that, and she was also, what was her son's name? Iti or something like that. And he was music. He was the birth of music. Right. So, frequency. We've been talking a lot about that too. Right. Thank you so much, my love. I do write. I actually have a book on my website you can check out. But frequency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you said it's feminine, right? There's a relationship there, right? So let's look at that, right? All that is happening, I said to you in the other show that Pluto retrograde, which we're in right now, started in Empress season and will end in Empress season. It was started in Taurus. It's going to end in Libra. And I said to you even then, right? I said, I don't know why I feel like this, but it's the Alpha and Omega. It's the divine feminine coming back to regulate, you could say, right? And she's doing it with love, but she's also willing to swing the sword of justice. Right. So we have this communication that's happening with Uranus, with now Saturn's going to come into play. Neptune's also there. Whatever we were hiding from ourselves will also be communicated in this. But it's so that you can manifest, because Jupiter also does that, right? Manifest a higher frequency, higher learning, right? So that you can come out of the Uranus transit, because like you said, it's all tied to Taurus or Venus, right? So you can come out of the Uranus transit in 2027, the best version of yourself. Remember, all these pieces work together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're being pushed to look under the mattress or under the rug. What have we been hiding? What are we unwilling to let go of? All those things. And then Jupiter is luck also. Let's not forget that Jupiter has a touch of luck, right? So if you've been doing the work, this could look like a very lucky season for you, even that it's in its detriment, because Gemini is Sagittarius's sister sign. So there's already this alignment, this natural alignment of how to communicate ideas.
Indeed. And this can be a great time for partnerships, relationship, and community. Because you think, okay, whenever you're looking at just the institution of relationship, most people focus a lot on the seventh house when they're talking about their one-on-one relationship and love, but it's not by itself. And the seventh house is not just to clarify, it's not just romantic, it's one-on-one relationship, period. But the third house is relationship, which is Gemini. The 11th house is relationship, which is Aquarius. And it's just different forms of relationship. But where does the institution of relationship begin? With Gemini, because it begins with communication. And so with all these planets in Gemini, Jupiter, the planet of abundance, soon it'll be Mercury, Venus, which is relationship for one, the sun, which is our focus, and momentarily at the new moon, we're going to have the moon there, which is our internal GPS system, what's driving us internally. They're all there. So there's a window of opportunity to have advancement through working with the right people, having the right conversations. This can be literally your money, because Gemini is commerce, it's commuting, and it's the beginning of community, and it's conversation. So who are you talking to right now? Who's in your circle? You know? So that's something else to think about.
I would also say that add that to the fact that Mercury right now is in Taurus, right? So Mercury's, moves things quickly, and Taurus is the house of finances, right? So there's this energy together, right? And even when Mercury moves into Gemini, it will make that faster. But with Uranus sitting in Taurus, this could look like success overnight.
And currently Mercury and Venus are receiving each other. They have mutual reception. Venus is in Gemini and Mercury is in Taurus. So they are talking to each other. So yeah, it's don't miss the boat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like there is momentum here. So it also depends on, how much work you have already done. Now, let's say an idea just comes in out of the ethers, go for it, right? You could probably do a lot of networking before August, where the Mercury retrograde is going to tell you, okay, go within and harness what you've learned, right? But there's a lot of room between here and August as to what you can get done, right? Mm-hmm. So even if you've just gotten an idea, this is a prime time to maybe lay the foundation.
True. There was something else I was going to add, and I'm trying to remember about that. I was thinking, it'll come back to me.
So I'm actually looking forward to this, because I feel like with Mercury going into Gemini but coming out of Taurus, it feels like, and all the planets that are like just bunched up in that area, it feels like we have an opportunity to like launch into the stratosphere,
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say that.
Yeah. Damn, it was something you were saying about the idea. If you got an idea, something came in my mind when you said that. It'll come back to me. But either way, I think where Saturn's going to come in again, just to reiterate, I think Saturn is going to help the square. Like you said,
Okay.
leaning into the aspects and not trying to run from them. Because Saturn, with so much potential, you know, you can look at somebody's chart and they got these trines. And sometimes the trine can make us, what's the word I'm looking for? Lazy. I can't think of another word because it's come to you so easy. Like when I play sports, some people, it's like they came out of their mama's womb and they just muscles popping out their neck, calves, you know, and you know, it's like wouldn't never go, wouldn't work out, wouldn't train, lazy, but they just had natural God-given athleticism. For me, I had to work for it. I had everything. I had to run in the heat, the workouts, everything. So sometimes, but it gives you more resolve. I think the square from Saturn is like having to work to get something. And I think with all this potential that that is abound with this stellium in Gemini, this will help. And for those who naturally lean into discipline, it's par for the course. But if it's just a bunch of ideas floating around, and it's like, you know, I could do this and I could do that. I mean, you know, a spade hand, you know, two in a possible. I mean, I got a queen of hearts. I might get you a book. No, if ain't nobody cutting in the first two rounds, you know. But Saturn makes you actually figure out how to play this hand. How can I walk this queen? How can I get a 10 of diamonds? How can I get a book out of that? You know,
Right.
So yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that point.
Yes, I was trying to put a comment, but for some reason it has stopped allowing me to put comments. But Secret Balance, you can hit me up at loveleesoulempress@gmail.com and also on my website, lovelee-soul-empress.com. Okay. No, I was gonna say, you and I, we both excel with that energy. Why? Because we're fixed signs. We have a lot of fixed energy. It makes us determined, right? And I don't know about you, but I got hella fire in my chart, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like my solar plexus is always on fire. You know what I'm saying? It's always on fire. It's always willing to put in the work, right? It's the drive. But for maybe some other elements, like, you know, depending on where your water might sit, and that Neptune retrograde could have your ideas everywhere, right? And it's going to be a need to focus. This could be also because Jupiter is like from the ethers, you know, and Mercury moves fast, but lists. Okay, I feel like this, putting it on paper, and words are spells. Listen, you know, when we get to the spiritual part, words are spells, and some of the best spells are put on paper. Okay, so now when you've put it down, you've birthed something without you recognizing that you have now birthed something. You have brought something into the 3D. And so I feel like there's also that aspect of that. And, you know, when you were talking about the Hathor or that energy of the Empress or the divine creatrix, I really feel like all the chaos that you see right now is being used by her. You know, we had this conversation last time with the AI versus OI, you know, the artificial intelligence versus the original intelligence of the womb is that battle. And I feel like she's trying to use that to get us to what we've been trying to manifest. But it can't, with all these retrogrades coming this summer, it can seem like shocking, abrupt, or overnight, right? You can find yourself in places and be like, okay, let me slow down a little and take in. That's going to be important. And take in, because I feel like we are all like tuning forks. And you and I have spoken about, you know, how astrologers or people in the spiritual community, sometimes we feel the energy before it actually hits, because we're supposed to lead others. It's really important that you tap in to the frequency, and that you hold. When you were talking about standing on your 10, you know, it's not about being aggressive as much as it is about holding the frequency of your truth.
Mm-hmm. And put yourself on a regimen, and don't allow life to regiment you. See, Saturn is the taskmaster, and it will come and create rigidity around you in your life. And if you don't identify with that energy, it can be very disruptive. So with all this energy in mutable Gemini, put on your God mind, thinking like you are what you are. I am that I am. Put yourself on routine and regimen. And then there's going to be disruptions to it, because Saturn tests us. And so the part of the challenge is going to be, can I put myself back in alignment after I have disruptions that come from life? And because that's part of what a retrograde does, is it causes interruptions, slow down. But if you already got yourself programmed that, okay, this is what I'm doing, da 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 da, and then the mutable energy comes in and it shows us how we have to adapt without abandoning see, this is a test. The test is going to be, are you going to abandon the whole thing when something comes up that ain't quite jiving right with you? There's some interruption, the children doing this, the car doing that, but you got this great vision, but you let some bullshit come in and just like, oh man, this is a sign I ain't even supposed, I'm just going to, that's going to be the test. Because Saturn, always know this, Saturn rewards you when it gets what it wants. And what Saturn wants is your time, your discipline, your endurance, your steadfastness. And then that great idea that you have, that vision, this bullshit. It is yours to receive when you, in other words, pay your dues. There you go.
Yeah, and I would expand on that by saying that, you know, when you were talking about did you put in the work and all of that, what is, you know, Venus, especially in Taurus, what is it talking about, right? It's talking about, and you mentioned this before about the self-love. What do you value in yourself, right? Are you really, especially, and I say this, you know, on my Patreon all the time, that when the Empress is in Taurus or Libra, that's the time where she's supposed to like turn it into herself and pour into herself, because she spends the whole year like pouring into everybody else, right? So now that it's gone into Gemini, it's this thing of like, but do you really believe that you're the shit? Or do you really believe that you can birth that, or that you are that, right? Because, and we talked about this too, manifestation, everybody hangs it on law of attraction. It's not the law of attraction, it's the law of resonance. So you are pulling what you are
not what you wish to be. So if when Jupiter goes into Gemini, and Mercury and Venus and everybody, and the party's all there, right? It's basically asking you to, but do you believe it though? Right? And Saturn and Neptune is gonna test to see, like, nah, are you sure? You really believe that about yourself? You really think you're the Empress, or you really think the Emperor? All right, let's test it out. And if you can hold the frequency, you will achieve that which you have set out to build.
And that's the truth that you got to stand on. That's the truth. The truth is internal. I was telling one of my clients, you know, the truth is internal. It's not something you have to express to anyone. It's first is what you internalize, and you'll exude it. You don't have to announce yourself when you walk into a room. Your presence will announce. And I'm not making this, I live it. You walk in a room and everybody knows you're there, even when you're trying not to even be disruptive or, hey, look at me. No, just walking in the room, because the majority, unfortunately, of people are not really sure what they stand on. And they're looking for feedback externally to validate whatever they are trying to embody. And I agree with what you're saying. You can't manifest something that you are not. You know,
Sure can't.
either you are it, and you're going to endure to fully bring it into reality. Because, you got to think of when childbirth, we're not still guessing is the baby there. Hell, the mother's belly has been sticking out. We know there's a baby in there, but so she's not going to wish the baby into the world. She has to work and endure labor, work. She has to work to bring this life form, but we already know it exists. So, so I just said that to concur with what you're saying.
I would also add that, the song that came to me, the music always comes to me when we having our conversations is you is or is you ain't my baby, right? And when you're birthing something, that takes a level of commitment, and when you talked about, you don't have to say certain things. I say to my followers all the time, speak softly, but walk with a big stick, right? Powerful people don't have to say they're powerful. As a matter of fact, if you're saying you're powerful, most likely you are not. You understand? Because people will, your frequency is with you all of the time. The people who are constantly screaming about their power, are the people that most likely do not actually possess that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So your frequency, you holding your frequency, and the way you do that is by knowing your truth, right? That's how you exude and also attract that which you are trying to build.
Big facts. Big facts. So what else did you want to share on the, or did you want to go with this?
No, I mean, I feel like, listen, this summer there's going to be a lot of confusing energy. Okay? Because there's going to be a lot of overlapping retrogrades, but and some of them are the longer retrogrades, not such like shorter ones or whatever. And I feel like this is to test your grit, your commitment, mm-hmm. Okay, and your willingness. And this is big, okay? If you didn't hear nothing I said the whole time, this is it, okay? and your willingness to trust the connection and the communication that you have with your spirit team, and to be led when you can't see, because there's going to be mad retrogrades. So you better believe that you're being that you're walking in the right way, or you could find yourself very off track.
I want to see if this will. See, this one thing I don't like about this. Zoom let you write. I want to write something. Let me see.
I don't know. It wasn't letting me comment.
I wanted to write on the so I'm going to do it this way. The goddess Themis coincides with the word we use as thesis. And a thesis is to set down, to bring something down that has a manifestation energy about it in itself. All right. Now, by her coinciding with Hathor, we're going to use Hathor in this whole little spiel here. So think of Hathor. Now, when you transliterate language, you remove the vowels and you hold the consonants, because that's the shell that moves language through different cultures. So let's say Hathor, HTR. Okay. Or HTHR. All right. Now, so even Jupiter, who we associate with justice, is still reporting back to her, because as Themis, she's law and justice. Now, so Jupiter is the law. Libra is the adjudication of the law, because it's the blind justice. What planet rules Libra? Venus, Hathor. Okay. Yep. Now, government, because Saturn rules the sign of government. So Saturn's a major player right here, and it's going to square all the energy in Gemini. But where is Saturn exalted, all of my astrology students? In Libra.
Libra.
Okay. Now, so when Hathor is in Libra, she's justice. So she's HTHR. When she is behind Jupiter, she's the law. What's the word for the law? The Torah, TRH. When she's behind government, she's the wrath, because government enforces. There we go. Which is the other side of her, is the wrathful Hathor is Sekhmet. So Saturn is still reporting to her, and that's RTH. So in the language, she has hid herself. And so all the energy that we're describing is still coming under her behest, her umbrella. So if you are in rhythm, then that's one of your highest protections right now, to be in rhythm. And so I yield on that.
Well, the only thing I would, because I love that, but the only thing I would add to that, right? And, we studied this when we did the Hathor, show, right? Was that, Sekhmet, yes, is the other side, or, the Venus and Libra side, right? But on top of that, there is the fact that she is the eye of Ra. What is, when you look at the eye of Ra, or you look at the third eye, it looks like the eye of Ra from the side, right? So this is, high priestess frequency. Saturn is in Pisces, where, Venus is exalted, right? So you're talking about, do you trust your intuition? And do you trust to believe in what you are birthing? And will you stand on it? And will you fight for it? Will you put in the work to make it become, to really birth it and birth it with love. Like I said, it's not about aggression, right? Even though, Sekhmet or Venus in Libra is about protecting that which you believe is worthy, right? So there's that aspect too, right? Are you trusting in what you've built, even in the face of all of the unknowns? And will you still stand on it? And are you willing to open yourself and allow Saturn to show you, or Neptune to show you, that which has been unknown to you up until this point? Or what could be standing in your way, preventing you, right? We might find out that the struggle has something to do with the limiting beliefs that we have held up until this point, and that it's time to release them, especially with Uranus, right? Going into retrograde 2 in September, right? So making us, that might be the last of it, right? Because it comes out on January 30th for the next year, like really having to throw it all up. All the stuff that was standing in the way to really make something come into the material.
And on a final note, be mindful of your respiratory health. Anything you can do to bolster or foster because Gemini rules over the lungs, the arms, the shoulders. So this movement, raising your oxygen intake, and I'll just leave it at that. Do whatever.
I'll add to that. Mullein, whether you want to smoke it, drink it in a tea, whatever, this will help you expel things from your lungs. I would say oregano oil. And I would also say, if you're a juicer, get those beets in there, because it cleans out your oxygen, or, helps you breathe. So I would just add that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Protect yourself.
Ashe.
And indeed, Ashe. So I've said my piece.
Yeah, I did too. And for all of the new people that have come from crossing over from both of our pages, we just appreciate you so much for spending time with us, right? And I feel like if it's you, then it's me. We all get the same kind of energy. It's just how we might look at it and how we can share the conversation to expand and grow as a collective. I feel like that is the goal right now.
Indeed. So Lovelee, I concur. I thank everyone for tuning in. Your time is valuable because your time is your energy. And so we appreciate you sharing your positive energy. And like to send a shout out to all the new subscribers and followers. Thank you for spending time with me and tuning in. And there's more to come. I know the Astrology of Black People series is seeming to be pretty popular, and there's a lot more to come with that. But Lovelee, you want to tell them about what you got going on, your products?
Sure. I have a Lovelee Soul Empress apothecary, so I do a lot of herb work. I also do tarot and rituals, all kind of stuff, manifestation coaching. I'm very proud of my Patreon Spiritually Strapped group, where we really dig into the soul work. And as well, if you go over to my website, loveleesoulempress.com, you will see that there are 2 workbooks that I published. They're ebooks. These are journals that will assist you to cracking open some of the work, or let's say you've been on your path for a while, but you're hitting new walls. This can jumpstart you. Okay. So, and I'm definitely here to assist anyone who would like to reach out. And I also would say, I've had a reading with Jamal. Definitely get one.
Thank you. Yes, I was trying to share the screen here so I could show your let's see. Let's see here. I had it.
And you can find me on basically all the platforms with Lovelee Soul Empress. I go by the same name everywhere. Okay. Yeah, that is my website, guys. Come on over and check it out.
That's the new product there. Books Spiritually Strapped, right? One and
Yes,
two.
1 and 2. So I would do them in the order that they are because they ask you poignant questions, okay? And you have assignments every day that will assist you in cracking through the blockages or the unknowns.
Bitch, get off me.
You already know.
Oh man. Okay, so yeah, you can see Lovelee got a lot to offer here on the site. And I'm gonna quickly buzz over to mine. And you can find me here at 720astrology.com. And I got quite a few offerings as well. If nothing else, you can download the free birth chart guide here. And it's just an introduction to looking into your own birth chart, some key principles that you should keep in mind. One thing I do want to highlight something new that I have that I'm offering is I have a bundle that I have available now. And it's my book, A Layman's Guide to Manifestation. I don't have them here, but I've got these learning handouts that break down metaphysical principles of life. I'm breaking down the number 5. I'm breaking down the symbolism of the tree, the symbolism of fire. There's a handout that explains etymology and what it really means. I even break down the etymology of the names we give to the signs. You ever thought about why is Gemini Gemini? What does Taurus mean? I also have a booklet that I produced, 2020 and the World to Come. And what did 2020, what does that cycle really open up? So that's now available on my site under the Sacred Teachings. And there's a lot of other stuff, but you can also book a reading on there as well. But I'll stop there. That's enough. I'm trying to get back over to did I unshare? Okay. All right. So we appreciate y'all. We send y'all love and light. And we will see y'all in 2 weeks, Lovelee.
In 2 weeks. Yes, indeedy.
All right. What's up, E? That's my man, Eric. Let me acknowledge everybody. I'm a May Taurus. Peace. Sakina Poet. Peace. Secret Balance. S. Frank. A Rhythm in the Dark. Natasha Johnson. Project Execute. A Rhythm in the Dark. Rose. Super Spaceman 25 said, I need to look at Sidereal. Super Spaceman, put some videos out so we can learn from you. Okay, Shauna, Cynthia Rivera, Lakita Pierce, Miss Bishop is in the house. And let's see, G Beanie. Let's see who else. Natural Market.
So we've got some people over here too. We got Fatah in the house. We've got Muñeca, Avira Campos, Maritza, Nene, Queen Blunt Truth. You guys are just the best. We really, Ethereal Mortis, we really appreciate you guys coming through and for giving us all the love.
Yes.
Most appreciated.
Yes. Keith Hunter, Robin, Andrew, Divine, everybody. So if we miss anybody, charge it to our head and not to our heart. But again, we thank y'all and we shall return on the next go around. Peace.
Bye, guys.